Hey guys, okay, welcome to Introduction to Literary Devices Part 1. Like it says, before I start to explain what this is even about or anything like that, like it says in the pantalla, make sure that you take notes in your English notebook. You don't, I believe, have a copy of anything in your notebook from this PowerPoint because there's like a lot of text on each of the screens, and so it was going to be impossible to print all that out. But also because I don't really need to, because you guys are going to take notes and keep it in there, okay? So you will be tested on these things, but what this is let's get into the presentation now. Now that you know what you need for it, make sure you have your English notebook out and taking notes, okay? You can stop the video anytime you need to see the words that you need to write. But guys, remember, please, consejo number 1 on taking notes, don't write down the entire screen. Write down the important information and don't write incomplete sentences. Write in choppy sentences, right, without certain words inside, especially prepositions. Take them out if you don't need them. Don't worry about it looking beautiful and stuff like that. If you want to get used to doing it in outline form, you can always do that. I didn't have this one in an outline form because it's just information and a lot of like terms. So it's up to you what you want to do. You do need to take a picture of these notes as part of your homework, okay? So listen carefully. It's part of your homework to take a picture of these notes and to prove to me that you watched it and that you watched it with understanding. But other than that, I'm not going to grade you for what your notes look like. That is your decision and what you want to do with that, okay? So what are literary devices? Well, if you guys have ever read like a good book or a good story or just been like interested in some type of writing, it's not just because the author sat down and just started writing what they want to say. No, they write using certain strategies, okay, or certain tools or certain ways of writing, and those are literary devices, and we're going to learn those today because of 2 reasons. One, the obvious one is that when you write, you can use these strategies as well to make your writing interesting and to draw your reader in every time. You know, like we always talk about with the topic paragraph or the topic sentence of a paragraph, that is supposed to be your attention grabber, right? Okay, well, what do you do after you grabbed the reader's attention and now you're kind of like boring them because you're just talking and talking and talking like I do in my videos? I know, I'm sorry. I know you're going to say that. Okay, but what do you do after that? How do you keep their attention? Well, literary devices do that because they add variety to writing. They make it interesting. They make you like guess on certain things, think this is going to happen, then it doesn't happen, right? Or think like, okay, yeah, I understand this because you start to know the characters really well and you start to really get into the book. And that's why like some of you guys for reading who enjoy it a lot are like, oh, I just go into a whole different world because of the way the author writes. And that's because the author is using literary devices and literary elements, okay? And you can do the exact same thing. If you love to write, you can apply these things so that you can continue to grab the reader's attention. Also, second purpose for learning literary devices is because it will help you analyze writing, okay? It'll help you analyze a book if you know what the plot is, if you know what the antagonist is, what the protagonist is, what the metaphors are, what the similes are, what the setting is, etc., etc. So these are also devices and elements of literature that will help you analyze and help you understand writing even better, okay? So devices you're going to see are some of the strategies, and then elements are, you know, what are always there in writing, in certain writings and in certain books that you are going to read, okay? So remember, the 2 purposes are what? 1, to make your writing better because you can implement these things, the structure of it all and the strategies, and number 2, so that you can analyze writings better to help you understand them, to get more into them, to be more interested into them, and to take all the information out of them that is available there. Because look, you have a book or you have like a piece of writing or something like that, there is so much more information in that than you even think. is there, the symbolism that it's trying to represent, the message behind other messages that it's trying to give. So the more that you can analyze writing, the better you're going to take out the information that the author left there for his or her reader. Okay, there are 2 parts to this video. You'll see one today, and the second part on the day that it says to watch the second part. Okay, so let's do this thing. Okay, so let's start with a more specific definition of what literary devices are. Commonly, the term literary devices refers to the typical tools used by writers in their works to convey his or her message in a simple way to his readers. Okay, so for writers, it's also a way to be artistic, use strategies, but also to convey it in a simple way. Underline that part when you write it, okay? To convey his or her message in a simple way. And they are tools. Devices are tools that the writer uses. Okay, here are 3 benefits to using literary devices in your writing, because they are necessary, you guys. 1, when used correctly, the different literary devices help readers to appreciate, interpret, and analyze a literary work. Next one, they not only beautify the piece of literature, so they make them beautiful, but also give a deeper meaning to it. There's going to be symbolism that is really interesting, right? It's not just what you see on the page, but it's also what it symbolizes, what it represents, the message behind the message, testing the very understanding of the readers along with providing them enjoyment of reading. So it challenges you and you enjoy it more, okay? It's deeper. And number 3, they also help motivate readers' imagination to visualize the characters and scenes more clearly. Okay, so if you have a book that is using a lot of good literary devices, sometimes you're just going to get such a beautiful picture of the setting of where the book is because it's described really well, and also the characters are going to come to life. Sometimes, like, I don't know about you guys, but if I've read a book and then watch a movie of that book, I don't even like to watch the movie from the book because the author did such a good job visualizing what the characters look like, how they act, that I don't want the movie to ruin it by putting some actor in it and me thinking, no way, the character that I had in my head was so much better, okay, than the character on the TV screen. But anyway, so the resume of it is what? 1, it helps you appreciate, interpret, and analyze. 2, yes, it gives beauty to it, but also makes the understanding deeper and the meaning deeper so that it's enjoyable. And 3, it motivates your imagination. Okay, under the umbrella of literary devices, there's like 2 aspects to them. Some are literary elements, and others are literary techniques. Okay, and that's what you're going to see right here, the 2 aspects to literary devices, literary elements and literary techniques. First one is literary elements. These exist in a literary piece, okay, so like a piece of writing, especially literature like a book or a novel or something like that, and are used by writers to develop the work. So underline that word, develop the work. Literary techniques, on the other hand, are words or phrases used by writers to give the reader a greater understanding and appreciation of their literary works. So you can also put this in parentheses. Literary elements are elements, meaning elementary, meaning basic, okay, parentheses. Those are the basics that a literary work needs. Your plot, your setting, your climax, your conflict, your conclusion, etc., right? Literary techniques, in parentheses, you can say the extra good stuff. Okay, that's where the writer says, okay, I know I just told them about this character, but now I'm going to symbolize the character into something else and make it even deeper and make it even cooler of a story, okay? Literary elements, basic literary techniques, the extra good stuff. Okay, so let's start by looking at literary elements, the basics, the foundation. Look what it says right there in parentheses, the development. Okay, you're definitely gonna have to stop this one and write, or just write while you listen to me so that you're hearing the explanation of all of them. The very first literary element, and believe me guys, if you go on the internet and you search for a list of literary elements, you're going to come up with more, but these are a good basic list of them all. Number one is your plot. The plot. What is the plot? It's the logical sequence of events that develops a story, okay? Every story has to have a plot. Think about Booker T. Washington last year, right? You start out at the beginning where he was in slavery, then you watch him go to Hampton Institute, then you watch him start Tuskegee University, right? And then his life ends from there. That's the plot, the logical sequence of events. Now, not all the time is it going to go like that, young, middle, old, right? Sometimes it's going to go back and forth with flashbacks and different stuff. But the plot is the logical sequence of events. Okay, so if you're looking for somebody might say, like, give me the plot of a story. And you're going to give them, okay, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. It's not going to be this long thing. It's going to be a summary of the major events. Look at number 2. That's going down. Setting. A setting is the time and place in which a story takes place, right? The time and place. Underline that and don't just put place. Because a lot of times people think of setting, you think of, like, where is it? New York, Boston, Roatan, Europe. But it's also the time period, because the time period has everything to do with the setting, you guys. What, like, let's say Europe. What Europe looks like today is nothing like what Europe looked like in the 1700s during the wars going on or anything like that, okay? Or America today doesn't look anything like the 1700s when the revolution was going on. So it all depends on the setting as well as to what the story is going to do, because you're not going to see people in the 1700s during the Revolutionary War walking around with cell phones. Okay, the setting is going to be completely different. Look at number 3, the protagonist. Protagonist. Now this is where you can use your knowledge of word parts or learn new word parts. I'm not sure which one. Pro, you guys, sometimes means for something. Okay, so like, for example, if you're talking about the tema of abortion, you know, like the what you do with your baby when he's still in the womb. Some people are going to say pro-life. Pro-life means what? You're for life. That means you're for not killing babies in the womb. Or you'll say pro-abortion, which means that you are on that ladder of being able to kill babies in the womb. Okay. Protagonist is the good guy, okay? He's the main character of a story, novel, or play. The opposite is number 4, antagonist. This is the person that's in conflict with the protagonist. Not all the time is it going to be a character that's in this huge conflict, because not every novel and every story is about a huge conflict, okay? But there's a protagonist, which is the main character, good guy-ish. And then you got the antagonist, which is the guy against the protagonist, okay? Anti is against. So again, that's another word part that's going to help you understand that. Okay, number 5 is one of the most exciting parts of the story, because it's the climax. The climax is, think about it like this. Up at the mountain peak here, the pico, right? Isn't that what it's called in Spanish? That's your climax. Everything at the beginning, look what it says, a very exciting section of the story where the main conflict is being resolved, okay? Doesn't mean it's all the way resolved, but it gets to the maximum point of excitement right there, okay? In the climax. So, let me see if I have an example. Yes, I do. I'm going to have an example in the next section about that from a movie. But anyway, a climax is just the peak. It's where everything gets exciting, and then the rest of it down here, downhill, you're starting to see everything start to resolve and the story start to end. Okay, so that's the most exciting part right there. Number 6, resolution. This is how the story ends and happens after the climax. So it's always going to happen after the climax, you guys. Always, always, always a resolution, because it's resolving itself down here at the bottom. 7 is the conflict. This is the issue around which the whole story resolves. Okay, what is the conflict? What is the problem that the protagonist and the antagonist are having? What is the lucha throughout the whole story, whether it's small and mentioned a little bit or huge and dramatic? Okay, the conflict. What makes the story interesting, right? Okay, 8 is the mood. What is the general emotion or atmosphere of a narrative? Okay, is it serious, suspenseful, happy all the time, dramatic? What's the mood? And then number 9 is the theme. It is the central idea or concept of a story, right? Okay, what is the main idea? What does the reader, writer, playwriter, I said reader, right? Writer, author, playwriter, movie director, what idea do they want you to walk away with, right? Are they trying to prove something to you? Are they trying to teach you something? And what is it? Okay, we're going to look at an example of what all those are applied to a certain story. Okay, don't call me crazy, okay? Do not call me crazy, but I am so excited about this project. I already did mine, and I'm going to show it to you in the next thing so you know what I'm talking about with all the definitions of the literary elements, because that's what we're looking at today, is just your literary elements. The next time we'll be looking at the literary devices, which are a little more complicated, but they're cool, they're good, they're exciting, they're interesting, because remember, they're the ones that add the deepness and the interestingness to the story. Okay, but here, guys, you have an opportunity to practice your understanding about the literary elements I just explained. And I'm about to show you my example, okay? Pick a movie and identify the following elements found in the movie. What's the plot? What's the setting? What's the protagonist, antagonist, climax, resolution, conflict, mood, theme? It'll only take you a couple minutes. Pick a fun movie that you like, okay? I have one rule. Pick an appropriate movie. Don't make it some scary It movie or anything like that, okay? Nothing demonic, por favor. Something, it doesn't have to be a Christian movie either. Okay, don't call me up and be like, Jessica, I don't know any Christian movies. No, I'm not asking you for a Christian movie. I'm just asking you for an appropriate movie, okay? Nothing de diablo, okay? So, I'll show you mine right now. That's your homework for this video, by the way. So send me a picture of your notes and send me a picture of this homework. Okay, so I know it's a little small, but I'm going to read it to you, don't worry. I picked the movie Hacksaw Ridge. In Spanish, it's Hasta el Último Hombre. I'm pretty sure. Please tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, so the plot is, remember, the plot is your major events of the story, the logical sequence of them, too. So don't be telling me, you know, like what happens at the end and what happens in the middle. You got to tell me in order. Number 1, it says Desmond Doss met Dorothy. Okay, number 2. We discover he has a bad relationship with his dad. Number 3, Dorothy asks Desmond to propose. Number 4, Desmond enrolls in the military as a medic. 5, Desmond is put on trial for being a conscious objector but is released. Number 6, Dorothy and Desmond, just lost my place, get married. Number 7, Desmond goes to Hacksaw in Japan. And number 8, his friend dies and he asks God to give him one more guy. I say one more guy because that's what he kept saying, one more. So I'm quoting him. One more guy to save until he saved a ton of people. Okay? And remember, that's basically the resolution of the whole movie too. Most of you guys have seen the movie. But that's basically like where, guys, that is the climax, by the way, too. And then everything starts to resolve after that. The major events basically happened before all of that. And then you could say number 9 would be that Japan surrenders, obviously. In that battle of Hacksaw Ridge, Japan surrenders, which had a lot to do with Desmond Doss and his motivation that he gave everybody to keep going. Setting, remember that's the time and place of the story. The setting is in Tennessee, United States, and Japan during World War II, around 1942. So it's not that you have to tell me the exact year. Like, I don't know, it's just I watched that movie 10 years ago. No, just tell me about what time period it was in. So like I said, during World War II. The protagonist is obviously Desmond Doss, and the antagonist, he kind of had two. In this movie, there was the military personnel that wanted him to bear arms. Remember, there was the military guys that wanted him to carry a gun, and he refused to touch one. And then Japan was his antagonist. Okay, so the climax, continuing with our literary elements, the climax is what? The climax is the important event, the most exciting part, where then all of the rest is like resolving itself as you go down the hill. The climax is when the guy, you remember the guy that was his enemy at the beginning because he like hated the fact he wouldn't carry a gun, but then turned into his friend because he saved his life like the first day of the battle, died, and that's when he started to ask God to give him one more. He watched his friend die, he couldn't save his friend, and he said, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this? And he said, just give me one more guy to save, because he was heartbroken and he wanted to just do what God wanted him to do. The resolution, remember, that's when everything gets resolved, the conflict gets resolved, is when the Japanese surrender after Dost rescues a lot of men and encourages all his fellow soldiers to not give up. You remember at that point, even the guys that hated him turned and he was the hero because of not giving up, and even though he didn't have a gun, he kept going for God. Conflict, no one understands why Dost will not touch a gun and criticizes him for his religious convictions, calling them selfish. Okay, that was the whole conflict. That's the conflict between the protagonist and antagonist, right? Is that the antagonist with the military guys is no one understands that he will not touch a gun and criticizes him and torments him for his religious convictions. And then mood, it was serious through the whole movie. In his home and in Japan, it was suspenseful and sad for a lot of death in the war. Okay, that's how you analyze it, guys. So that means, what does it help you do? It helps you really resonate with what the story is about. Okay, what is the writer, the writer trying to convey? And there's one more. I'm going to add it on here after and hope that you see it, because I just realized I just missed it. The theme. What is the theme of Hacksaw Ridge, you guys? It's exactly what it says in Spanish, right? Hasta el último hombre. It's not giving up. That the things that God puts on your heart to do, don't give up on it. Keep going with it until the last thing is done that needs to be done. Don't give up. Stick to what you believe and defend it, and don't give up. That's the theme. Okay, cool, huh? Okay. So your turn to pick a movie. So show me your notes and then show me the movie with your analysis of your 9 literary elements. Woohoo, have fun. Bye.